Welcome to War Bios, the podcast that delves into the most pivotal battles in history, examining the strategic context, operational art, and human cost of war. I'm your host, General Biography, and today we're going to explore one of the most decisive conflicts of the Napoleonic Wars, the Battle of Leipzig, fought in 1813. This battle marked a turning point in European history, as the combined forces of Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Sweden converged on the city of Leipzig, located in the heart of Saxony, to challenge Napoleon's dominance. To understand the significance of this battle, we must first examine the complex web of events that led to this moment. The year 1812 had been a disastrous one for Napoleon, with his ill-fated invasion of Russia resulting in heavy casualties and a significant blow to his military prestige. As the French army retreated from Moscow, the coalition forces saw an opportunity to strike back against the weakened French Empire. In the spring of 1813, Napoleon launched a series of campaigns in Germany aimed at defeating the coalition forces and securing key territories. The Battle of Leipzig, fought on May 2, 1813, saw Napoleon's army clash with the combined forces of Russia and Prussia, led by General Gebhard von Blücher. Although the French emerged victorious, they suffered heavy casualties, including the loss of over 20,000 men. This battle marked a turning point in the war, as the coalition forces began to gain momentum and Napoleon's position became increasingly precarious. As the summer of 1813 wore on, the coalition forces continued to gain strength, with the Swedish army, led by Crown Prince Jean-Baptiste Bernadotte, joining the fray. The Austrian army, under the command of Field Marshal Karl Philipp I zu Schwarzenberg, began to mobilize in Bohemia, poised to strike at Napoleon's vulnerable southern flank. Meanwhile, the Russian army, led by General Mikhail Kutuzov, continued to push westward, seeking to drive the French out of Germany. The city of Leipzig, with its strategic location at the crossroads of Europe, became the focal point of the conflict. The city was a major commercial center, with a population of over 30,000 people, and its capture would give the coalition forces a significant advantage in their campaign against Napoleon. The historical context of this battle is crucial to understanding its significance. The Napoleonic Wars had been raging across Europe for over a decade, with Napoleon's military machine having conquered much of the continent. However, his disastrous invasion of Russia had weakened his empire, and the coalition forces saw an opportunity to strike back. The Battle of Leipzig would be a test of wills, a struggle for dominance, and a turning point in the fate of empires. The involvement of various European powers, including Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Sweden, added to the complexity of the conflict. Key figures such as Napoleon, Tsar Alexander I, Field Marshal Schwarzenberg, and General Blücher played important roles in shaping the course of events. The battle ahead will be fierce and intense, with the outcome hanging precariously in the balance. This pivotal conflict marked a turning point in European history, as the combined forces of Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Sweden converged on the city of Leipzig to challenge Napoleon's dominance. The French army, led by Napoleon, numbered around 80,000 soldiers, while the coalition forces, under the command of General Gebhard von Blücher, Field Marshal Karl Philipp I zu Schwarzenberg, and Crown Prince Jean-Baptiste Bernadotte, boasted a combined strength of over 200,000 troops. The battle began on October 16, 1813, as the French army launched a series of attacks against the coalition forces. The fighting was fierce and intense, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. The Russian army, led by General Mikhail Kutuzov, played a crucial role in the battle as they clashed with the French troops on the outskirts of Leipzig. One of the most significant events of the battle was the heroic defense of the village of Wachau, where a small contingent of Russian soldiers held off a massive French assault. The bravery and cunning of these soldiers allowed them to inflict heavy casualties on the French, buying valuable time for the coalition forces to regroup and launch a counterattack. As the battle raged on, the coalition forces began to gain the upper hand. The Swedish army, led by Crown Prince Bernadotte, launched a decisive attack against the French right flank, while the Austrian army, under the command of Field Marshal Schwarzenberg, pushed forward against the French center. The Russian army, meanwhile, continued to apply pressure on the French left flank, slowly but surely pushing them back. The turning point of the battle came on October 18, 1813, when the coalition forces launched a massive assault against the French positions. The fighting was brutal and intense, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. However, the coalition forces had the advantage of numbers and terrain, and they slowly but surely began to push the French back. As the French army retreated from Leipzig, they left behind thousands of dead and wounded soldiers. The city itself was devastated, with many buildings reduced to rubble, and the civilian population forced to flee. The human cost of the battle was staggering, with estimates suggesting that over 50,000 soldiers were killed or wounded during the fighting. The Battle of Leipzig marked a significant turning point in the Napoleonic Wars, as it dealt a crushing blow to Napoleon's military prestige and paved the way for the coalition forces to march on Paris. The bravery and cunning of the soldiers, the brilliance and blunders of the commanders, and the devastating human cost of war all combined to make this battle one of the most epic conflicts in European history. The involvement of various European powers, including Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Sweden, added to the complexity of the conflict. Key figures such as Napoleon, Tsar Alexander I, Field Marshal Schwarzenberg, and General Blücher played important roles in shaping the course of events. The devastating defeat of Napoleon's army marked a significant turning point in the Napoleonic Wars, paving the way for the coalition forces to march on Paris and ultimately leading to the downfall of Napoleon's empire. In the months following the battle, the coalition forces continued to push the French back, retaking key cities and territories that had been under French control. The Russian army, led by General Mikhail Kutuzov, played a crucial role in this campaign as they marched through Germany and into France itself. The Austrian army, under the command of Field Marshal Karl Philipp Fürst Schwarzenberg, also made significant gains, pushing the French back across the Rhine River. As the coalition forces advanced, Napoleon's empire began to crumble. The French people, weary of war and suffering, began to turn against their leader. The economy was in shambles, and the military was depleted and demoralized. In January 1814, the coalition forces crossed into France, marking the beginning of the end of Napoleon's reign. The Battle of Leipzig had a profound impact on the future of Europe. The Congress of Vienna, which took place in 1815, redrew the European map, establishing a new balance of power and creating a system of alliances that would shape European politics for centuries to come. The rise of Prussia, Russia, and Austria as major powers marked a significant shift in the European landscape, while the decline of France and the dissolution of the Holy Roman Empire marked the end of an era. The human cost of the Battle of Leipzig was staggering, with estimates suggesting that over 50,000 soldiers were killed or wounded during the fighting. The city itself was devastated, with many buildings reduced to rubble and the civilian population forced to flee. The battle also had a profound impact on the civilians who lived in the surrounding areas, many of whom were forced to endure years of occupation, poverty, and hardship. In the years following the battle, the city of Leipzig underwent a significant transformation. The city was rebuilt, and new industries and trade routes were established. The University of Leipzig, which had been founded in 1409, became a center of learning and intellectual inquiry, attracting scholars and students from across Europe. The bravery and cunning of the soldiers, the brilliance and blunders of the commanders, and the devastating human cost of war all combined to make this battle one of the most epic conflicts in European history. As the great historian Dominic Levin once said, the Battle of Leipzig was a turning point in European history, marking the beginning of the end of Napoleon's empire and the rise of new powers in Europe. The legacy of the battle can still be seen today. In the modern nation-states that emerged from the ashes of Napoleon's empire, and in the ongoing struggle for power and influence that continues to shape European politics. In conclusion, the aftermath of the Battle of Leipzig marked a significant turning point in European history, paving the way for the downfall of Napoleon's empire and the rise of new powers. The bravery and cunning of the soldiers, the brilliance and blunders of the commanders, and the devastating human cost of war all combined to make this battle one of the most epic conflicts in European history. That's all for today's War Bios. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, I'm General Biography reminding you to keep marching toward victory.